Good evening, guys. I make it 6 o'clock on the 30th of August. It's Cardinal Marie on this side, um, and I'm looking at Entrepreneurship 3B, and we're at Learning Unit 3. I'm testing and experimenting on new ideas, and I'm going to take you through the highlights of this chapter tonight. Just a word, an administrative arrangement. I want to inform you about two things. The one is I'm still working on the ICE tasks and I'm still awaiting the last date to submit ICE. I suspect somewhere end of September towards mid-October, somewhere in that bracket is when I'm going to have to submit my ICE. And I typically make the final date for submission for you guys for your ICE. I make about a week earlier. So it'll be somewhere, as I say, late September, early October is when the ice will be due. I'm still working on I've released one to keep you busy so long. I'm still working on the other 5, 6 ice tasks. I did mention to you that I will be doing time tests as ice tasks. I believe it's in your best advantage to have those, but I may do a couple of others. The second administrative thing I want to speak about is Learning Unit 2. You'll see from the, yes, August, September, late September, early October, again, will be when the ICE tasks, or the final date for ICE tasks would be. I'm still waiting for the date, so I don't have a date. I'm expecting somewhere around there. But yeah, as soon as I've got the date, I'll let you guys know. We're doing Learning Unit 3. As you'd see from the pacer, there was no class for Learning Unit 2. The way things work out with the prep for the 3 prep sessions, every second week class and so on, there are learning units that will not be done, and you're aware of this. You guys are older hands at it. But there was a recording I made for Learning Unit 2. There's a couple of things I wanted to highlight in there, partly because I think they're important, but also because they will assist those of you doing WIL. And that recording, I'm not sure I pushed the wrong button. I'm going to blame load shedding and resultant bad internet and funny internet connections. That recording has disappeared. I'm going to have to redo that recording. It's disappeared as in not only didn't it upload, it's just gone. I can't find it. It's not on my computer. Well, it wasn't on my computer. It was on Blackboard, and I was moving from there, and it's gone. So I'm going to have to redo that recording. I'll do that in the next day or two and upload that probably roughly at the same time that I'm uploading this recording. Okay, so I'm going to get into this learning unit, Learning Unit 3. And this learning unit is about once you've got this idea and so on, and we've gone through various iterations of how we identify the ideas and where ideas come from and so on. But now it's the idea that take this new idea and instead of throwing your money at it and development and all of these things that can, in some cases, can be quite an expensive exercise to go through. Let's do a couple of experiments. Let's do testing of the idea. Let's see how it works. Maybe make a prototype or two, test the prototype, and see how all of this gels and see how customers feel, and then maybe modify our idea, change the idea, look at the idea from a different perspective because of the information you've gained in doing these experiments and seeing the context of this product in terms of the context of the market and in terms of the clients and how they see these products. So it's just a next logical step from going from the idea phase into this time where you're going to start doing these or start manufacturing it, and in between slot in there just your testing phase, so you make sure that you have got the product that the market actually wants. And there's a couple of these points that I want to highlight. How's it, Andrew? I see you've just entered. Okay, so what are these experiments we're talking about? Why do we do them? What are they? What are they about? So right at the beginning of the project, when we decided, okay, we want to take this product, we want to take it to the market. Our project is to get this product to market, and we can do a couple of fast things that are relatively low cost. They don't cost that much money, and many of them actually, if you just put your head down and do them, they don't cost you anything. And that teaches you about your product. It teaches you about what the market says about the product. It teaches you what your product really is. Because let's get something straight, guys. A product in your mind and a product becoming a tangible thing is two different things. And when I say product, I'm also talking about a service. And there's ways of testing services by role playing and so on. But what your mind is, what your idea is, and it actually goes to market. It's two different things. I'm currently playing with a little project. Many of you know I stay in a rural area out on a small holding, and one of the things we're looking at is honey. To do a little bit of honey farming and put up a couple of beehives. I've already got a hive out as an experiment, and then sell some honey in at the local market. No, I'm never going to get rich of it. I'll be lucky to cover my costs, but it's a little side thing, and it's part of the bigger project of what we're planning to do. So to implement this, it's now swarming season, which means the bees are now swarming, and your hives are out, and hopefully you get a swarm of bees, and now you've caught a swarm. They go stay in there and they generate the honey, but the honey won't be ready for the next good couple of months. And even if I could catch 4, 5, 6 swarms now, I'm still going to struggle. So what I've done in the meantime, I've started buying in honey, repotting it and selling it. And something as simple as honey. I'm now on my third label and my second bottle size. And well, actually, if I take size and shapes and lids and all of that, I'm at my third or fourth bottle actually. Why? Because I'm taking it to market. There's a couple of guys at work as well that's bought from me. They've said this, that, and the other about the label. They've said this, that, and the other about the bottle size. I've taken it to the market and I've put it out on our market stalls. And I've got some feedback there. So I'm changing it. That's nothing else except an experiment. Guys, something as simple as taking honey, putting in the bottle, slapping a label on and selling it, I'm learning through experimentation. So what's so much more if you've got a massive big project that you want to run out? And also these tests teach you how to learn about feasibility and viability, and of course the sweet spot there. And those of you that have the textbook open will see that somewhere on page 154, I think. The sweet spot there is the overlap between the feasibility, the viability, and the desirability, right? And if you can get that sweet spot and the experimentation can put you into that sweet spot, that's exactly where you want to be. That's where you want to have your product, that you cover all those bases, and then you're in the best possible position to, once you run this product out into the market, to make some money out of it, because that's what we want to do. We want to make some money. So there's various types of experiments, and I'm going to run you through the different types, and I'm going to highlight one type of them. And when we get to that highlight, I will, or the one that I'm going to highlight, I'll tell you why I'm highlighting that specific way of or that type of experiment. Sorry. Okay, but also we must keep something in mind. If we are going to experiment, we want to know that our experiment has value. And there's a guy by the name of Gil Constable, and Constable came up with something called the truth curve. And Constable's truth curve, basically what you have in front of you, at the bottom, he has got all the different types of experiments or testing that you can do. And as you go from left to right, it increases in effort. So to do an interview with somebody is nothing. I can give my pot of honey to somebody at work, say, listen, have a look at that, think about it, take it home, chat to the people at home. I just want to chat to you for 5 minutes tomorrow. That's an interview, guys. Very low effort, not much in there. Doesn't cost me money. But if you look at the vertical scale, the believability of the information that I get from the interview is not as high as I would, for example, to have a live product or a business out there. I've actually launched the product, it's in the market, and now I speak to people and say, you've now bought this product. What do you think about this product? How do you want me to improve it? What suggestions can you make for me? How can we go about improving this product so that it suits you better, fulfills your needs better? And by doing that, obviously, I'm hoping to sell more and I'm going to make a little bit more money. Interesting about Constable's truth curve, if you look to the left of the vertical axis, he calls that area fantasy. He says, if you're taking a product and you're putting it in the market and you're doing no experimentation, you're simply saying, right, boys, here we go. This is my product. To market I go. There's the product. Now I'm waiting for the clients. You're living in a fantasy world because you don't understand what the market's going to think or do with your product. Doesn't mean your fantasy can't come true. It doesn't mean you can't have a brilliantly selling product without doing any experimentation. But you are living in a fantasy world because you don't know what reality is. And then as it goes from left to right, it takes a little bit more effort, costs you a little bit more money, but obviously then you get more and more out of it. And obviously, the more believable the information, the better for you because the higher the chances are that the better you're going to know the product, and the better you know the product, the higher the chances are that you're going to. Any questions at this point, guys, before I go into the different? Okay, let's look at some of these types of experiments. Obviously, I've already said the first one, interviews. This is very easy, guys. Fast and an easy way to get insights. And these interviews, I want to qualify these interviews, and I want to say something about interviews. Given what Constable says, we need to keep in mind that these interviews are not as structured and as let me look at what as valid, for example, as it would be if you're doing research. I know a lot of you are busy with the research modules as well, and you might be sitting now thinking to yourself, but hell, in research they told me interviews are quite a good way of doing qualitative research. And now Carl's sitting here and saying, no, but listen, interviews are quick and easy and dirty and they're not very reliable. It's the type of interview that you would be doing. I would argue that if you do an in-depth, formal, structured interview, and you do a proper sample and all of these type of things, you will find that your results will move many places to the right on Constable's truth curve. So don't get phased by this idea of interviews. These are quick and dirty interviews we're talking about here. As they describe them, fast and inexpensive to get some information. And even before you really do a more advanced way of experimenting. So this is something that you can do in advance of experiments. This can be the experiment itself. Let's not misunderstand that. This can be your actual experiment, but this is something you do in advance of the experiment to improve and enhance your product before you even move to the experimental phase. Paper testing. Paper testing is you yourself sit down and you think about the product and you outline it and you write it down, draw a couple of pictures. There's two main techniques, wireframes and storyboarding. And we'll talk about those later. This is the one I will highlight later on in the session. So this is a very important one for you because paper testing is a requirement for your assignment that's coming up. So you will have to do paper testing as part of the assignment that's coming up. We're dealing with the assignment, just so you're aware. I don't have a paper open, but I believe it's next week. So it's not a 2-week skip. because I couldn't fit everything in, and I didn't want to skip another week because it'll get you too close to the assignment, to the due date. Due date, I think, is also late September. So you might want to start reading your assignment, but paper testing is something that's a requirement, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about wireframe and storyboarding a little bit later, but that is paper testing. So it's not speaking to the client, it's you and possibly some of your founding members, the founding team, sitting down and drawing this out and saying, well, for example, if they, and your textbook likes very much to talk about apps and so on, and online things, and I can understand because that's really the direction we're moving into. And it's very much, if a person clicks this button, then they're going to go there. That page is going to have these 4 sections. If they click that, then they're going to go to the next place. So yes, paper testing, an important part of experimentation, and also it's something you can also do to a large extent as a pre-test before you go to clients, before you speak to people. Run it through for yourself so that you understand what's happening. Advertising. Now we're starting to talk a little bit of money, guys. So now we need to reach into our pockets. We need to say, look, we've got a product out there, or we have a product that we believe is something that can work. And you start advertising your product. You don't necessarily have a product yet, right? You advertise and see what the market says. You want to test and see what they have to say about it. You're not necessarily selling the product yet, but you're creating awareness. Pre-selling is something we'll talk about a little bit later. But you want to create awareness in the market. You want to get your socials running. Possibly print a couple of brochures that explains what the product's going to do, what your company is about, or stating in the brochure, companies in the process of developing X, Y, and Z. Maybe go to a trade show or two, build up some connections. Because obviously, if you've got other connections, you'll remember from previous sections and the previous modules in entrepreneurship, we don't work solo. We try to cooperate with other entrepreneurs. We find somebody else that's good in something I'm not good in. I do one part, they do the other part. We share the spoils. Here we go, button to nowhere. What fun. And talking about online things again. This is where you have in your website. Now we're talking a bit more advanced. We now already have a website. We already have an app. We've got an electronic product out there, and we offer a service on that. And when they click, the service goes nowhere. It says, this feature is currently being developed, or this feature will be available in the near future. And there's interesting things you can do that you can play around with. And they take it to the next step. So this is a button to nowhere. The next step is a landing page. And the landing page is an advanced button to nowhere. So here you go and you offer, for example, various services. So say, for example, I'm going to come back, for those of you that joined a little bit later, I was saying right at the beginning, I'm starting a little venture on the side here, just buying in some honey, and I'm bottling it and I'm selling it off at our local market. And I'm going to carry on with that as an example. So I've got a little website up, and now I want to use the button to nowhere landing page type of experiment to see what types of honey people are interested. So you get different types. So you've got comb honey, filtered honey, and buttered honey. And then you get different flavors because it depends what the bees eat. They don't really eat it, but in any case, where the bees have collected from, whether it's canola, sunflower, eucalyptus, cherry blossom, apple, whatever it may be. So now I say, I put a section on my page. I say, click here to read more about our comb honey, filtered honey, buttered honey, or click here to understand how the different flavors of honey are used in cooking or whatever. And I put cherry blossom, apple, eucalyptus, and sunflower down. Now the person clicks on there. you might have a little blurb there, but you don't have stock. If people click and they want looking for stock, they can't find it. What you're trying to ascertain is what choices are people making? What are people interested in? Um, for example, to do a completely different example, you've got a bicycle rental business in a holiday town. It's next to the coast, or there's a big safe lagoon. Yeah, let's make it a big safe lagoon rather. And you're thinking of expanding your business into renting out canoes, kayaks, and paddle boats. These bicycle paddle boats, the ones that you pedal boats. Yeah. Um, so what you do is on your page, you advertise those three. And when somebody clicks on there, there's a message that pops up. Unfortunately, none of these, it's not available at the moment. Unfortunately, they've all been rented out. Whatever your little story is. But now when you use your web monitoring software, you can see what was clicked. And I suddenly see, geez, there's a lot of stand-up paddle boards being clicked on, but the pedal boards don't get any clicks. So I know if I'm going to spend my money to expand my business, I'm not buying pedal boards, I'm buying stand-up paddle boards or kayaks or whatever the case may be. Carl's going to be buying a lot of eucalyptus and sunflower honey because the cherry blossom and the apple blossom honey is not getting any clicks. And I see that it's plain filtered honey, what people are looking for. They're not really interested in buttered or comb honey. So now I've got a good sense of where to take my hard-earned money and to spend the development costs and the time to start doing things so that I know what I'm busy, where I'm going to throw my money at. Okay, I'm moving on now. Let's have a look at the next one that's coming up. Right, task completion or usability. So what this is where you give the product to somebody to actually test the product and use it. And this shows you what works and what doesn't work. It shows you how, and there's two ways to do this, and I recommend you do both. You are looking at the person using the product, and you are seeing they are struggling to find the button. And this is a true story. Last night I was staying over in town, and unexpectedly, no, very expectedly, Carl just didn't check the app. Boom, the lights go off, and I think, damn it, load shedding. I wasn't planning for that. But luckily, I have in my travel bag, I have an emergency light. Now I've got this emergency light out. Now I don't use it much, in the sense that when I need it, I put it out beforehand, and I'm sort of, okay, it's going to go off now, and I switch the light on, and when the lights go off, the lights on. So I'm sort of, now I'm fumbling with this thing in the dark, and I can't figure out where the on-off switch is. And I'm running my hand all over the place. I can't feel this, and eventually I feel, oh, there's the switch, and I click it. Now, if you were watching me, if you were doing a task completion or usability testing, you would observe that and you say, okay, so the button is not obvious. We need to do something. And we have a little brainstorm. We're the founding team. We say, okay, guys, what can we do? And we come up with the idea, why don't we take the rubber on that button and impregnate it with some kind of a luminous type of material so that when it's in the dark, this glows. And then we know, okay, and when the person takes it out, it'll glow and they can push the button and bang, very easy to see. So it's those type of things. The second part of a usability testing would be to have the person test it and then do an interview. Speak to them, ask them what they liked, what they didn't like, why. And they would be very quick to come up with suggestions for you how to make it better. Then, of course, a prototype. If we can make a prototype, that would be great. So we're making an actual looks like the product. And we're going to talk about, we're going to look at a whole section I'm briefly later on going to quickly chat you through the different types of prototypes and so on. But prototypes in itself is a separate field, and there's different types of prototype. The crudest being the rapid prototype, bang it together with whatever you have, um, and you can then let people test it and so on, and then later give more functionality, and you'll come out to um, a MVP, um, or a proper mock-up or a high fidelity prototype or whatever the case may be. Pre-selling. We're now moving into the world of places like Kickstarter. So now you're selling a product that you don't have. You're actually selling, you're taking people's money. Partly to test the market, but in many cases, and that's what Kickstarter does very well, is you're getting people to pay for the product so that you have got the capital to be able to build the product. And there's two models to that. The one is the people actually give you the money, um, and you then have the capital, you build the machinery, whatever, and you make the product. The other one is people order, but they haven't paid, and you find financing. Obviously, the finance house is going to take a chunk of that, and they're probably not going to finance 100% of your orders, because we all know people might order, but when it gets to the point that you say, okay, we're going to ship it now, pay, they're going to say, you know what, I actually don't need the product anymore. You took too long, or my needs have changed, or whatever the case may be. So yes, pre-selling is also an important part of experimentation, because it judges the viability. It tells you how many people are prepared to throw money at this product, and it also gives you a sense of security, because now you know I have already sold X amount of, or X units. Then we have the concierge or the Wizard of Oz. They basically the same type of thing, except concierge is more, you don't have the front end of a product, electronic product finished. People are liaising with the back end of the product. So it's a rough and ready. And with Wizard of Oz, people are asking questions online. So frequently asked questions. So people put a question there, and it looks like it's a bot answering it, but you actually sitting there, you actually have somebody manually providing the service. And the idea is, in the long term, you're going to develop this bot, but you want to see what the questions are that people ask. You want to understand what they and how they argument before the programming is done. That's also Wizard of Oz is also, if I remember correctly, part of prototyping. It's also a type of prototyping. The last experiment is your live product and business. So you've done these tests, you've done what you need to do. You've rolled out your product. Your product is now in the market, but you still want to look at what is the market saying. You still want to go back and maybe do a task completion test. Maybe do some interviews with people that are using the product to see how is it really working for them. Is it something that they are using? Is it something that they're comfortable? Or what can you improve? Or can you take this product and say, well, this is the normal version. I'm bringing out a deluxe version, right? Or this product is more suited for groups of people. I'm bringing in a home version. So this is for larger scale use. Let's say, for example, restaurants. And now I'm bringing out a home version of the same product, because maybe people want such a product to use at home, but they don't need the super duper industrial version of this product. Again, let's quickly look at some prototypes and what prototypes are. So in essence, a prototype is a product. It's probably not the full working product, although it can be. But it is a product mock-up of some sort. So it is not um, a commercially available version of the product, but it gives you a sense of what the product's going to be, and it allows people to test the project in one way or another, so that one can see if it's going to work or not. So there's your different types of products. MVP is not the most valuable player. It is the, I'm going to tell you now, minimum viable product. So this is a product that is functional, but it's not fully functional. It hasn't got all the bells and whistles on it, but it's functional enough that people can use them and they can actually test the functionality of the product. And they can see how it works and they can give you feedback, or you can test the product. Because you don't necessarily have to give the prototype to a customer. Much of prototyping is what you will use internally to take the product and prove it and see how you can make the product nicer, better, faster. Rapid prototypes, they basically build it from whatever you can. You want to have a look at what the prototype looks like. You want to have a sense of what the product is. It doesn't have to function. You just want to be able to have a look, feel of the product. Mock-up prototypes, sometimes 2D, sometimes 3D models. Also, bit better than a rapid. So it's not made out of a loose cardboard box and a couple of pieces of plastic wrapping that you had laying around. It's a bit more fancy, gives you a better sense, bit more refined. High fidelity, now we're talking about it. This is a sophisticated version of a mock-up. It really allows you to interact, and it allows you to be able to start testing this product. For example, if you look at with motor vehicles, they'll make a high fidelity prototype, typically a scale, say a third scale or 1/5 scale model of the vehicle, but it will be the exact curves and everything. And they can then start taking that and sticking it in a wind tunnel to see what's the drag frequency, what's that going to do to your petrol or your diesel, and all of these type of things. So they can really now start playing with the shape until they now start making the actual product. Something else that a lot of people have used in the past is Legos. Lego is very handy because it comes in so many forms and shapes that people build Lego mock-ups of products as a prototype. And with there's a lot of electrical components to Lego, so you can actually build small robots and so on. So you can make quite a functional product with a more modern Lego type of things. Another form of prototyping is role playing, where you and your founding members actually go through the process of using the product, or especially for a service. So say, for example, you introducing a new, you're going to do a hotel. So let's see what happens when the customer walks through the door. What's going to happen at the front desk? How are they going to get to their room? What's going to happen in the room? What's going to happen if they go to the restaurant? What's going to happen when they check out? And we role play those things to see what the customer experience is going to be like. Wizard of Oz, we've spoken about. It's basically fake functions. So it is where the customer thinks this is they interacting with the product, but they're actually interacting with you. And so there is no virtual assistant. You are the virtual assistant, but it gives you a sense of how people interact, what they're feeling, and how they're feeling. The last one that we're going to look at is user-driven prototypes. This is where you actually say to the customer, build a prototype. Tell me, what do you want? We wanting to do X, Y, and Z. How would you do it if it was your business? And the customer builds you a vision, builds you an idea, so that you can understand how they want it. And this is more complex than just an interview, guys. And this is where we actually ask them, draw the process out for me. Tell me what this thing will look like. Draw a sketch of it. I don't care how good or bad your drawing is. Draw me a look-see thing so that I can have a sense of what do you see it feeling like, what do you see it looking like. There are then the book also talks about pilots versus prototypes. Um, but I don't see that as a really under this heading. A pilot is just an experiment, while a prototype is a physical product. And then we'll get back to storyboards. The book also talks about. Guys, so I want to look at a bit deeper into two types of prototypes. And these prototypes are prototypes, but they're also experiments, and that is the paper testing idea. So I want to look at the wireframe. So here's a picture of a wireframe for an app. As you can see, it's simply a sketch that tells you what the digital product is going to look like, right? A wireframe is typically relatively simple. It doesn't go into too much detail. Um, whilst a storyboard is a lot more detailed. And a wireframe tends to be about the look, see, and feel about it, while a storyboard is the actual functionality about it. And guys, it's very easy to get confused between these two things. So when I finish now, and it's going to be another 10 minutes or so before I finish, if you go look under your more resources, I've linked a video there for you that explains the difference between wireframes and storyboard. As I said, this is a part of the assignment that you're going to do. We'll deal with the assignment next week. But please listen to that before you decide whether you're doing a wireframe or a storyboard. So basically, a wireframe is a 2D rendering of a digital product. It sort of tells you what the products are, which buttons will appear there. Um, it might have a button to nowhere there because you're still experimenting. And it gives you a sense of what does this look like? And immediately, this thing's not going to work. That thing looks out of place. We don't want this right at the bottom of the screen. We want it right at the top of the screen, or whatever you and the founding team looks at. Then we have the storyboards, which are the thoughts and ideas arranged about how you're going to experience this. And they tend to talk about three things here. What is the problem? So define what is the problem that you're going to solve, and how will you solve that? So what is your solution to that problem, and how will the customer benefit from that? And in generating the storyboard, it's the idea that you and the founding members, or you and your design team, or you yourself and I, sit down and come up with what is this product actually going to do. It gives you another way to think through the product, the functionality, and how it is going to benefit people. Okay, guys, that gives you a nice overview. And remember, these are overviews. This is not everything in that chapter. You need to go back to that learning unit. You need to go look at that learning unit and work through it and see what the other nitties are. But this gives you a good framework to touch all your learning on. Guys, please ask me any questions that you have. If you don't have any questions now, it's fine. If you do bump into questions later, thanks, Andrew. If you do bump into questions later, as you're going through the chapter, please always send me an email. I would ask you, Damon, thanks. I'd ask you that if you send me a question, just put there the subject code ENTP7312W, and then ask me the question. It's just because I teach several classes, and it's sometimes a tad difficult to place the students in which class they are. And I'm going to answer a question about experiments differently in this subject than I would be if I am, for example, answering the same question in a research module. Later in the chapter, very interestingly, there's a nice section on the scientific method and how it can be applied to entrepreneurship. I think that gives you a good sense. And there's also a template for doing experiments. Both of those are very handy sections, both in terms of this subject, in terms of research, and in terms of your will module. I would encourage you to go have a look at those. Guys, if there's nothing more, I'm going to thank you and say to you a good evening. And we will chat next week regarding the assignment. I will upload this recording tomorrow and make the YouTube link available. I will also make a plan. I've got a couple of meetings early tomorrow morning, but I'll make a plan to re-record just the section I wanted to do on Learning Unit 2. Just one section, but I think it's valuable to do that section. It's also part of what you're using in WIL. So it's the cross functionality between the subjects. So I'll make a plan to upload that. Hopefully by tomorrow I'll be finished with that. Cool, guys. Thanks. Have a good evening. Gordel out. Cheers.